How do you define your self-worth? Is it something you can build up or that others can tear down? Do some people have more than others? Hey friends, I'm Christina, and in this video, I want to break down what self-worth is, how it's developed, and why it is different than self-esteem. Have you ever struggled with self-worth in your life? It can be a bit of a confusing topic for some, partly because we might be mixing it up with something else altogether. Self-worth is not something that is determined by your contributions to the world, your job, something you've done, or some kind of ability that you have. Your worth isn't about how much money you make, or your status, or even your goodness. Are you a good parent? Are you a good partner? Are you a parent at all? What is your relationship status? So many of these concepts come from society that we are expected to measure up to, but does any of it really matter to our worth as humans? When we are growing up, we form our identities. We are absorbing information that we take in from our caregivers, friends, and society around us about what is good, what is bad, and where we fit into it all. Lots of people have experiences that shape their self-worth based on body image. Then we carry those ideas as we grow up to be adults who define their self-worth based on body shape or weight. Maybe our parents or grown-ups around us who have unhealed stuff about themselves make comments about what they believe to be good when it comes to body image. If they made comments about a dislike for their own bodies or were self-critical in the mirror, were constantly dieting or trying to make changes to their body, if they showed disgust or made comments about other people's bodies or even made comments about the size and shape of our bodies, all of these things impact how we view ourselves and where we fit into it all. We start to absorb these images from what we hear and compare ourselves to those. This is how we develop a sense of ourselves. We see what others think of us, and that affects how we think of ourselves a lot of the time. And we will continue to think our self-worth is dependent on the opinions of others unless we interrupt this way of thinking. When I'm doing an initial assessment with clients, whether they are seeking help for overcoming emotional or binge eating, or if they are looking to lose weight, I usually ask some form of this question. When did your challenges with food begin? And almost all of them mention some type of history of body image struggles or a comment that was made about their bodies at a young age. I've also had several clients who say they were put on Weight Watchers or some other restrictive diet as a child because their body didn't fit what their parents thought was ideal, which often led to an unhealthy relationship with food or general dissatisfaction of their bodies. But body shape and weight, and even all the things I mentioned before, have more to do with someone's preference, right? And that can be different from one person to the next. So, if none of these things determine our self-worth, then what does? Self-worth is the internal sense of being good enough, that you deserve to be alive and are worthy of love and belonging to others and to take up space in the world. This is something that is inherent, something that we are all born with. It's already yours. It's not something with which you can compare yourself to others, and you cannot build it up or break it down. Now, self-esteem is something different because it relies on external factors such as abilities, successes, and confidence in your achievements. Self-esteem can be high or low depending on how we are doing in various aspects of our lives, and it can be changed, and it can be worked on, but our worth is a constant. Now, I have struggled with worthiness and body image for as long as I can remember. I struggled with perfectionism and trying to prove my worth to no avail. It wasn't until well into my 20s before I started really addressing the issue by processing some inner healing that needed to take place. It takes time and attention to think back to some things that were said to us growing up that might have had an impact on how we feel about ourselves. Going through the process of forgiving ourselves and others for past mistakes can be painful, but so healing. Getting curious and asking questions like, is this even true? And asking, who told me that? Can be powerful exercises. As Brené Brown says, it's not the critic who counts. Yes, I know she's quoting Teddy Roosevelt, but I heard the quote from her, so she gets some credit. It's not easy work to do, but it's so worth it to address these root beliefs. Now, when it comes to body image and self-worth, if we don't recognize our inherent worthiness, then we continue in this thought pattern that unless we have the ideal body shape, whatever that is, then we don't really have worth. But what we often find is that even if we do lose the weight, we think, oh, now I will feel better, but the feelings of worthlessness are still there. So we discover, maybe in one of the most painful ways, that it didn't have to do with my size after all. When you start to look at this younger version of yourself with curiosity and compassion, you are able to then have compassion for your adult self and practice self-acceptance. It can be amazing to see that shame and fear start to fall away, as well as all the other things that used to hold us back. We might still experience shame and fear, and they may not go away completely, but you no longer feel stuck from being able to move forward. Maybe the intensity starts to lower. You start to realize that even if you fail, get embarrassed, that you are safe from real harm. Feeling embarrassed can be distressing for sure, but it's also a normal human experience and you aren't in danger. I remember feeling panic about embarrassment growing up. I was so afraid of embarrassment that I would purposely not do things because I thought I would make a fool of myself, which would lead to the ultimate fear of rejection. But when you realize that, okay, wow, it was a little embarrassing, but did I die? No. And you start to recognize that you are worthy of another try. You are worthy of learning these lessons through embarrassment, failure, whatever. You might still feel uncomfortable, but at least you can get to a place where you know that putting yourself out there and whatever consequences that follow putting yourself out there are just feelings. It won't harm you. It might feel uncomfortable, but you can learn from those experiences and then try again. But it's really important to recognize that inherent worth piece. When we do, we understand that no decision we make can diminish our worth. We just have it, and it persists even when life doesn't go as we hoped it would. I invite you to pay attention to this. What are some of the ways you have noticed that self-worth comes into play in your daily life? Maybe it's body image, maybe it's something else. How has it stopped you from doing the things that you want to do? Get out your pen and paper and write it down. Journal it, and if you feel comfortable sharing, please leave a comment. Or you can always email me. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time.